everybody. It is the first Melissa Killeleagh Show of 2019. I'm your host, Melissa Killeleagh, and we're live here in the Finger Lakes One TV studio. Super grateful for our producer today, Josh Dorso. And I'm here in the studio with a really special guest, and then we have a great interview to share with you as well. But before we do that, for those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Melissa Killeleagh, and I often call myself a mompreneur. So I'm typically balancing the busyness of being mom and running a business, and in that order. That's what I love about it. Time to really devote to my son Jack, who is 2.5, and then builds my career and life around that. So today's episode is really fun. This weekend is the anniversary of the 2017 Women Marches all across the globe, especially here in the U.S. And here in Seneca Falls, because it's the birthplace of women's rights, we tend to gather a pretty incredible crowd of women and men supporting all of the unity principles that unite us, right? So talking about things like gender parity and stopping violence against women and all of the things that this town really represents. So on that note, I got to thinking about what really inspires me when it comes to our marches. And what inspires me is the theme that we have for this year, which is redefining resistance, women in the lead. And what that means to us as organizers is women stepping out and taking office and taking leadership roles in their communities. So whether it's, joining school boards or, running for a local, state, or national office, all of these things are so important, and they shift the way that we are able to lead in the world. So in studio today is a wonderful woman that I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of months ago through a program that I'm currently enrolled in called Women Elect. So it is a leadership course that's designed to help women really kind of get a sense of what it's like to run for office, to be in office, and to be in the forefront in this arena. And her name is Aileen McNabb-Coleman. She's a legislator for Cayuga County, which is our neighboring county here in the Finger Lakes. And I am really excited to have her in the studio today. Thank you so much for coming, Aileen.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm very excited to be here. It's an amazing setup you have.
Awesome, yes. We are so grateful for the Finger Lakes One studio. It's so fun.
Great.
Thanks, Jim.
Wonderful.
It's never bad to give him a shout out. So, Aileen, tell us a little bit about you and who you are.
Sure. Well, my name again is Aileen McNabb-Coleman. I'm currently a Cayuga County Legislator. I represent District 6, which is the towns of Senate and Owasco over in my area. I live in Owasco. I was born and raised in Auburn. I was the fourth of 5 children. So I have a keen sense of injustice, I guess. And I can be persistent. So I come with those qualities just by birth.
I love it.
And, my father was heavily involved in my community, always involved with elections and campaigns. And my father was elected official in Auburn for 16 years. My mother is an immigrant from Ireland, from rural Ireland. So I've learned a lot from my parents growing up.
Yeah.
I'm a wife, a mother. I have 2 boys that are 8 and 10. And I'm also a teacher. So I'm a special education teacher as well as an elementary education teacher. And currently I'm a substitute teacher while I am being a legislator.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I was born in Auburn, and I actually taught my first year in Auburn, and then I moved away to Albany and taught at Shenandoah schools there, then moved to the Rochester area. I taught in the Victor School District, and then I returned home after my children were born. They were 2 and 4, and we thought we needed to be closer to our family and really get back into the community. Mm-hmm. We were also excited about revitalizing our community, so when we moved back, we knew we'd have to play a role in that revitalization. And for me, I felt that the best suited role was the role that I'm playing right now, which is representing my towns and also just trying to make my community better and our county moving forward. So
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And helping move that needle when it comes to gender parity in
absolutely.
elected office.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
I love it. So a lot of people don't know this, but public administration is actually my background.
Nice.
So you are a woman after my own heart, right? Doing very much a lot of the same things I am, balancing the busyness of this role that you play out in the world, but also, putting family first and really taking care of them. So I loved listening to you tell stories about your boys when we were hanging out at Cafe 19 prior to heading over here. So here's what I would love to know. I think it's so fascinating, all the different backgrounds that come to the table when it comes to public service. So talk a little bit about what your teaching skills and passion brings to the table.
Well, I have a high frustration tolerance, I guess. I'm okay with a certain level of chaos and a certain level of being flexible. So it's just like in the classroom, I would come in and the day would be planned, and I would be ready, and it often didn't end up, the way it was supposed to.
Right.
And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm okay with, and charting a course is one thing, and following through is another. But then there's so many factors that come into play, and you just have to be able to bend and roll with it. Also, just as a teacher, one of the most rewarding things I was able to do was advocate for kids and get them what they need. And I feel like that, really helped me build these great skills that I'm able to use currently as I advocate for the people of Cayuga County and the residents and the taxpayers to get them what they need in terms of services, but also not provide any hardships for them in terms of taxes. So
yeah, that's definitely an important aspect of your role. So tell us a little bit about some of your passion projects while you've been in office.
Well, as I entered my office, it was in January of 2016, and it was before the water quality issues were coming to light in Owasco Lake when we had the harmful algal bloom outbreak. And I immediately was assigned those water quality committees. So I was starting to learn a lot about what was going on, and I was, I knew our water came from Owasco Lake, but I didn't know all of the intricacies of how that water comes out of your tap,
Right.
So I had been learning about all of that. And then when finally, in the early fall or late summer of 2016, we were, Auburn Water, or the water of Owasco Lake, was the first municipality in New York State to have toxins in our treated drinking water. So we were facing a crisis.
Right.
And being a part of that whole scenario and moving that forward and moving all of our efforts forward on that has been really educational, very rewarding also. And, it's a situation that's affecting many water bodies, especially in the world, but across New York State. And skinny atlases have been affected also by the toxins in the drinking water for the city of Syracuse, and they are adopting a lot of the actions that we did in Cayuga County and are trying to model after us. So
that's great.
It's very interesting, and we're also banding together. So trying to set the stage for success with keeping our water as clean as we can. So
such a serious issue.
Yes. Yeah.
But it is great when municipalities can work together, when you can learn from one another, share best practices.
Right.
It's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Having worked in that arena for a number of years, I'm all too familiar with all the circumstances that can keep us from doing that.
Right.
But
yes.
when it can happen, it's really incredible.
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah. One thing that always stood out to me, I want to say it might have been like the 2010 census or something, where it was reported that of all of the upstate New York cities, Auburn was the only one that had like a thriving, growing middle demographic of like age 30 to 50. You know, what we were seeing in a lot of the other cities is like under 18, over 65. So you had a young population, you had an aging population. We know the challenges that, you know, come along with both of those. But typically families, by far and large, were moving out to suburban areas. And so the cities weren't necessarily populated.
Right.
But even the numbers themselves were higher in Auburn than elsewhere. And so I'm always curious about that, because while I agree that, you know, the water issue obviously was a really serious one, there are plenty of people who also took very seriously a lot of the revitalization efforts that have gone on in Auburn over the last decade and continue to go on. So could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I mean, our Cayuga County, we, I think it was 2015 before I got on the ledger. Actually, it may have been prior to that. We created a one-stop shop for Cayuga economic development. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if we, you know, that they were progressive enough in understanding that, you know, we want to attract businesses and retain businesses. Mm-hmm. And then one of the reasons I ran was to attract families or retain families. Mm-hmm. You know, it's, you know, moving back to my hometown, because I was gone for 12 years, I actually wasn't sure I would be able to move back. I wasn't sure that, I mean, I may be able to find a job. I wasn't sure my husband would be able to work close enough and not have to travel all the way to Rochester. Right. He does travel to Syracuse for work, which is totally comfortable. And,
right.
And I think most people do that. He does corporate relations at SU. Okay. So, so that he's just going to SU every day, and that's, you know, it's less than an hour, and it's a comfortable commute. But, you know, I wasn't sure though that we would move back, and I just love, you know, everyone loves their hometown, right. But we have such a beautiful area, and I had been in other parts of the state, and we'd always said, you know, there's nothing like the Finger Lakes area. There's nothing like Owasco Lake and the surrounding towns, and so we were always drawn back, and it soon became inevitable when our kids were growing. We wanted them to grow here, and I think, you know, I'm hopeful that a lot of folks who move away, like for colleges or to begin their careers, that they are coming back. You know, and we can tell they are. I mean, they definitely are, because we see the surge of businesses that have opened up in Auburn, and you know, and especially in our downtown, it's been an amazing upswing. The arts they're also booming. Absolutely. In downtown in the area. So, you know, I hope that, you know, all of this attention continues to get the attention of people who have moved away and are considering coming back, or people who are just new to what the Finger Lakes has to offer, what Auburn has to offer, and the Cayuga County has to offer, and are just going to come back and enjoy that. But it has taken an investment in people's time and in creativity and innovation, and so I'm hopeful that we've become a place to foster that and to keep it thriving. So, and I'm happy to be a part of this culture that's doing this here in the Finger Lakes region and in Cayuga County. So
I can imagine. Yeah, I was just thinking, like, off the top of my head, I mean, there's a number of projects that I could think of. One of them is the big cafe that will be opening up with Auburn Public Theater. Yes. What are some of the other things coming up?
That's amazing. Oh, you know, for the city of Auburn, I'm not privy to everything, but I know the Nolan's Block downtown, that's being revitalized by former Cayuga County Legislator Grant Kyle with his company. And, you know, they put the play space in there, which is amazing. Yes. Which I was really pleased that they did that, because I had come from the Rochester area. There was one of those types of places in every little town. Right. So when I moved back here, I was like, we need more for kids. You know, we need more for growing families. And I'm just so pleased that seems to be thriving. But that entire block, I believe, is all rented out. So I know a coffee house is going in there too. But other than that, I'm not exactly sure about all the businesses, but it's completely rented. And, you know, they just created that boardwalk that's down on that area. It's like behind the Nolan's building on the Wasco River. That's like, I think that they're intending to put farmers market in there during the summer months. So, I mean, just sort of, it's just come alive. So I think, but there's many other projects. I'm sure that, the city and the city council, they really understand and have agreed to have in there. But overall, you can see everything seems to be blooming right now. So
absolutely. Last fall, I was walking around with my son because we commonly go to Play Space in the afternoon and then Mesa for dinner and do our grocery shopping at Wegmans. And we were walking around and there was music playing over in that little park right by Morrow's Table.
Oh yeah, Market Street Park. Yeah.
And of course, Jack was really excited because he wanted to walk over and see the fire trucks, and they were so nice. They just let us come in and go check out the trucks, and they took them on a tour. And there was just so much magic in the air. And that's what I love. Like, everyone was just happy to be outside, happy to be connecting, lots of conversations. And you could see that whole entire block is just transforming before everyone's eyes. So it's great.
Exciting. It's a good time. I know when we first came back, it hadn't been growing like the way it has been. So my boys even comment on, how like alive it is down there. And we were in that little shop Regenerations recently, and we walked outside, and my son's like, let's go for a walk in the city, So and I thought that was so cool because I was like, this is, Auburn. And when I was growing up, it was nothing. There was nothing happening downtown. And I grew up only a couple blocks from downtown. So, it wasn't really a place to say, I want to go walk around. This looks exciting. So that's very cool.
When I was in public accounting, I spent about 5 years on the team that did the independent audit for City of Auburn. Okay. So I spent a lot of time in council chambers.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, even back then, which is not that long ago, it was not an area that was attractive to walk around or to try to find a coffee shop or someplace to eat. It was like, run to Parker's and get some food and head back. That's or run to Wegmans. But even that new New York State Equal Rights Heritage Center is absolutely beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
And the staff there is amazing and so welcoming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are.
Awesome. So I have a new question for 2019, and I'm going to be asking this on every show because it's something that I have fallen in love with. Last fall, I went to Brooklyn, File Hall Law School, and had an incredible workshop with an amazing mentor of mine, Jennifer Kem, and she had a speaker there, Jonathan Shagai, who was sharing information on behalf of his mentor, who is Dr. John DeMartini. He wrote a book called The Values Factor. And the work that I did as a result of that conference, that workshop, has just transformed the way I'm experiencing my life. So when I think about it, it's, I often talk about making the transition from really thinking about living out the length of your life. Like, we're concerned about how fast we're going and when we're going to get here, there, and everywhere. But can we really live out the width and the depth of our lives? And so his title gives a lot away. The Values Factor. So the question that I have for you is, when you think about yourself wearing all of the hats that you do, as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, as a citizen in your community, as a legislator, what are some of the deepest values that guide your work? Not to put you on the spot.
No, it's interesting that you say that. And I wasn't really shy about this when I was running for office, but when my second son was born, I had a cancer diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
I also live with a chronic illness. So when I moved back and wanted to become more involved, and when I decided to run for office, one of the things that excited me was pursuing office was something I thought I would do as a retired person. But when you're faced with a diagnosis, your world becomes very small. And you realize every day is a gift. Every interaction with other people is a gift. And, that has really guided me since that. So for the past 8 years, and then for the past 6 with a chronic illness, it's really shown me how to look for the values and how to go deep and really explore, what is it that you're doing with your time every day? Because your time is the most valuable thing. And then my interaction with my kids and my family is also, of the utmost importance. So, I feel really it was a gift to go through this because, a lot of times if I hear somebody complaining and I remind them, this is, you look what you have, you look what you have in front of you, look what you have to look forward to. How could you make this interaction more positive? How do you want your day to end up? How do you want to feel when you go to sleep at night? And how do you want to wake up the next day? And that guides me daily. And I'm very very well reminded daily that I have struggles, and it's important to show for me my children a strong mom. It's important for me to show my community a strong woman, and a woman who, even though has obstacles, that I can persevere. So I'm really guided by those values. That's I have these. I have I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to be serving the role I'm serving for my community, and I have time and energy and to play with my kids and to enjoy them, to advocate for them, and to be with my family. And that was one of the things that excited me when I first met you, was that you called yourself a mom-entrepreneur. So because I feel like we very much connect, you feel like that's your thing. That's the most important thing, is being a mom. And that's exactly how I feel. So and then taking on the office, I wanted to show my community, please join me. We need more people of more varied backgrounds to please get involved, and that you can do this. You may be home with your kids, or you may be facing all these obstacles, but if there's something you want to do, whether it's running for office or pursuing a different career or going back to school, you can do all of that in spite of it. You really can.
Right.
And but this daily understanding that every day is a gift, and you live your best life every day. That's where I'm at. So
it's beautiful. I think about it, and what you said. Time is our greatest asset. So often in this life, I feel like we're focused on what's going to make the most money, what's going to be the most lucrative endeavor, and clearly, being in public service and your salaries are, public information. I know that's not what you're there for. No. You have a lovely stipend, but that's what it is. But I love this idea of really getting clear on how do you spend your time, right? Because a lot of people think that their values are X, Y, and Z, but then if they take a look at where their time is allocated, it's not represented. And that's where we can really begin to feel really misaligned in our lives.
Right.
And I truly believe that's what happened to me, about 4 years ago, when I decided to leave full-time work in finance and just, strike out on my own. It was the reality. If I didn't pursue my dreams, I was just going to be fulfilling somebody else's, right?
Right.
And when I said, family was a value, but I saw my family, a handful of times a year, where now we see my mom once a week, and, Jack and I spend our days together. It's a very different world when you can really begin to see, okay, how am I investing my time?
That's right.
And if your value is creating change, if your value is making a difference, if your value is being with your family, look at those hours, and are they invested there? Right? And it's not a judgment. It's really that internal self-check, so that we can go, okay, is our life really working out the way we want it to? Right. I like when you were talking about how those things guide you, because I often talk about this concept of having an internal GPS.
Oh yeah.
Which I really had to work on over the last few years.
Right.
But, we get raised in a culture that has, pretty normalized beliefs around what success looks like. You go to school, you get the job, you start a family, you get the raises, you do the things, right? It's like they all go in this progression. And I had figured out at a much younger age that I didn't necessarily fit that mold, but I kept trying to.
Yes.
And
I agree with that. I feel the same way. That's how it was for me too. Yeah. Even just, you don't have to be overcoming some huge obstacle or whatever, but even lately, like on your iPhone, it'll tell you what your screen time was. That's an eye-opener for me even. And I'm like, whoa, I have to make some changes because there's no reason to be doing this, like this much, and what are you missing out on? Mm-hmm. So that's like a little small reminder to me that I'm like, wow, but it was eye-opening when I first got that alert, and I was like, okay, let's make some changes. And since then I've been making those changes and reminding people around me that, because I think we all get consumed.
Yes.
And we think more and more and more, and you need to be on all levels of social media at all times and document every move, and you don't. You really don't have to. So
right, you can get intentional and focused.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
Share what you really need to share.
Being intentional that's been my mantra for 19 so far, is being intentional about your news and about how you're spending your time. Mm-hmm. Those are my big deals.
That's fantastic.
This year, yes.
I just got an idea, which we can talk about after, but I think we should do a challenge about screen time.
Oh, nice.
Something to think about.
That's great.
So, well, thank you so much. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we're going to go on to our next interview. But my favorite question, which is, as your journey unfolds, what do you see your legacy to be?
And I guess it kind of goes back to what I was, talking about with my values. Mm-hmm. People a lot of times they think about their legacy as like, they've lived this sort of amazing life and what's at the very end. And, I feel like I don't live that way. I don't know if I don't feel as though I have the luxury to do that, or I've just learned to not live that way and not wait till the very end to leave something. So, it's just about being a role model. Mm-hmm. I want to be a great role model for my kids. I want to be a great role model for women, younger women, to get involved. And, I just want to be engaged in my community. And I just want, I want more people to join the party and be engaged. And by party, I don't mean political party. I just mean the party of being engaged and enjoying each other, enjoying what your community has to offer. And teaching other people that, being present. I don't want others to wait till they are faced with some kind of diagnosis or anything. It's just, it's important to live your best life daily, to be present, and get your priorities straight, and understand, how you want this day to go, this week to go, this month to go. So just, I guess, but when you say legacy, and I think of my kids, mm-hmm. and I think about all the decisions I'm making for my county and my community, I think they all should have long-term outcomes. That guides my decision making. I'm always thinking long-term. So that's, in that way, I think of legacy too, in that way, like just trying to make good decisions for
mm-hmm.
the people who live in this community, but also then for my kids, so they can think about their mom as somebody who persevered and somebody who overcame obstacles and wants to continue, being present for their lives, but also advocating for my community. So
I love it. And the one thing I think we often forget as parents, and especially as mothers, is our children are also our legacies too, yes. right? It's like when you know that you've invested so much time in being the person that you want them to see,
right? Then
we can only hope that they carry that on with them
Absolutely.
long after we've left this planet.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to turn over to another incredible guest. We have, through interview, Michael Campo, and you'll learn the story about how we connected very shortly. But he is an independent filmmaker, and he's also the founder of a series of live videos called iChoose. So if you want to follow him, you can go to Facebook, go to his iChoose page, and check him out. But without further ado, we're going to turn it over to this interview with Michael Campo. All right, everybody, we are here today with Michael Campo, and I'm so excited to introduce him to all of you. He is an independent filmmaker, and I connected with him most recently through an incredible live video series that he's doing on a Facebook page called iChoose, and it's the iChoose series, which I'll have him tell you more about that in just a moment. But Michael, I just want to say thank you so much for popping on. I am excited to be part of your fan base and sharing the word about the incredible work that you're out doing in the world. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Melissa. I am psyched to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. So, do us a favor. Tell us a little bit about, sometimes I will literally say who you be. Right? Because we get really caught up in this world talking about what we do for work and what our titles are. In fact, I believe last week that's what you were talking about on one of your live streams. And so I want to know, who is Michael Campo? Right? Tell me more about you.
Who is Michael Campo? I think I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
It is a journey, and if it wasn't a journey, then I wouldn't be growing. So, who I was yesterday and who I am today, I hope that each day I have an opportunity to improve and really grow into and become the person that I believe God has created me to be. So it's difficult for me to answer that question because, I would say first and foremost that I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a friend, and within all of that, I've been blessed and have the opportunity to use my gifts, skills, and talents to make some movies too. So I'm a filmmaker as well. And I don't know. I mean, I'm on a journey. You caught me at a really interesting time because there's a lot going on in my life, and I'm filled with so much gratitude for everything that's happening. But at the same time, I'm still on the journey figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun because should we revisit this conversation a year from now, I know you'll be in a very different place, right? As all of these things begin to evolve and come together. Yeah. Well, that's great. So, and you said your kids are 6, 5, and 3?
That's correct. I got 3 kids. I got a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Okay. And your wife is Susanna.
Yep. And she's awesome because she puts up with me, and she's a great mom and a great wife.
I love it. As I mentioned to you before, we connected over this topic of homeschooling, so I can't wait to reach out and just learn a little bit more about her too. So, so here's another question I have for you. I know I can tell through some of the work that you've shared that there's a lot of passion behind what you do and the stories that you bring to the table. If you had to capture the essence of what drives you when it comes to some of the documentaries you've done and this iChoose series that you're doing, how would you wrap that all up?
Well, Melissa, it's interesting because as I just mentioned, as far as being on the journey, I think that it's constantly changing. But I think that for me, what's grounded me from time to time comes down to my faith and my spirituality. I believe that we all have a purpose, and I believe that part of our journey is figuring out what that purpose is. And for me, as I gain a greater understanding of my own personal purpose, I become more confident in that understanding and knowing who I am and what I'm about and what I'm to be doing, and my goals through all of the work that I'm a part of, whether it's client-based, my own personal projects, my feature films that I'm hired to work on by other people, or my own projects that I've written or directed or produced. It's about bringing people to the light. I feel like we live in a world where there's a lot of darkness, and that's easy. There's a lot of darkness, and it's easy to see that. But I feel that if people could have a better understanding of their role in this world, if they can understand that, we're all part of a symphony and that we really just need to play our note, to make that symphony beautiful.
True story.
I believe that, that the world can change, can be a better place. And I'm grateful to have a small part in doing that through the work that I do.
I love it. Yes, we are all part of that process, right? So that's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And, sometimes I feel like the work that I'm here to do on this planet is often, I compare it to conducting an orchestra, right? Now, obviously, I know that, God and, our higher power, whatever someone who's listening believes in, that may be the conductor in the grand scheme of the world, but in our lives, right? Like, I think the tagline that really drew me into your iChoose series is that we are the lead in our own life story. But if we could realize that, we each are here with our own gifts, and if we could just live out those gifts with as much passion as possible, then we're doing our part, right? Like that's the piece I think is so incredible. Yeah, absolutely.
And when the iChoose idea came to me like 3 or 4 years ago, and it came to me
what it is, because I think that there will be people who want to go like the page and go follow your series.
Sure. So basically what the iChoose is, it's a brand. We're building a brand around this idea of reminding people that they're the lead in their life story, that no matter what our circumstances are, each one of us is always one choice away from bettering our life and changing things forever. And we may not always understand that. We may not always feel like that. But the reality is that no matter what it is that we're going through, understanding that like our life, I'm a writer first. So take the lead in your life story is like when you're writing dialogue, when you're writing a lead character in a film or in a show, this character has to make active decisions. Otherwise this character is boring. Mm-hmm. And so I think as human beings, working in documentaries for as long as I have, seeing people who have made active decisions is what we can kind of rally behind, So I think that the idea was to really just create content that could inspire people. And I thought one of the cool ways to do that would be to create, cinematic, professional short films about an individual who has triumphantly overcome a challenge in their life, and then end with the hashtag iChoose, and then whatever the theme is for that particular short film. Mm-hmm. And then from that, I said, man, how cool would it be to so the first one we did was iChoose Hope. And it was about Eddie, who was addicted to painkillers, then turned to heroin, lived a very, very tough life, in and out of jail, homeless, the whole nine. But now Eddie is married, has his own business, just bought a house, and is expecting baby number 2. And his short film, ends with the hashtag iChoose Hope, because for Eddie, it was hope that got him to where he is today. It's hope that gets him, that sustains him today. And so, the idea was like, wow, man, like what if we could create these short films, share them with people and inspire them and put them out there just on the internet via social. And then the idea was like, well, what if we could create products around that? And then we could actually make a difference. So, if you buy an iChoose Hope product from us, we donate a percentage of those sales to non-for-profits that are working with people who have substance abuse issues. Eventually we'll do an iChoose Life, which will most likely be about suicide prevention. And, if you are interested in that and that's something that's important to you, you can rest easy and know that like a percentage of your purchase will then go to suicide prevention courses. Mm-hmm. And so I think that as a business and as a filmmaker and as a brand, what it is that we're building, I think there's just so much potential to do good in this way. And actively, like through the films, through putting out cinematic films, we can share this light, and remind people what's going on. And people who are suffering can just have, they can watch something on their lunch break and feel, you know what, it's going to be okay today. Mm-hmm. And then, for people who are interested in kind of like going to the next step and having, wearing that branded shirt or whatever it is, they're making a statement. iChoose is a statement that it's like, no, I'm not going to be what the world tells me I am. I'm going to be who I am, and nobody can tell me differently. It doesn't matter. We've all got skeletons in the closet. We've all got drama. We're all, good some days and it's terrible the other days. I don't know if I'm not swear. But that's the reality, right?
Yeah.
And so the whole point of this was to remind people that like, yo, you are not a product of this world. You are better than that. Yes. And by wearing an iChoose product or by sharing the films, by being a part of it, it's an opportunity to make a statement and say, I'm in control of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think it's such a powerful message. Less than, 3 years ago, I connected up with a woman by the name of Maria Volovic, and she's been on a previous podcast. I still work closely with her now through another avenue. I'm working with her through Jennifer Kim, who's another thought leader out there in the industry. But anyways, my point is, we did some work with this group around really getting good at slowing our lives down enough to notice the space before the choice. Because that's part of why so many people feel they don't have choices. Yeah. Right? Like we're acting out of fear, or we're acting out of like, fulfilling baseline needs, like, food, housing, security, all that kind of stuff. And so we don't slow it down enough to notice that there actually is a choice. Every single action that we take has a choice.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so we have to get conscious about that. Yeah. And then be intentional about it. So, and I think that's why, Eddie's story is so powerful, right? And, I can think about some really terrible times in my life where I had some hard choices to make. And I noticed that space before the choice. And, I chose joy, and I chose freedom. And, there were plenty of times where the story was overcoming obstacles and, and turning challenges into triumphs and all of that kind of thing. And so I think, anybody out there listening, if you go to the iChoose page on Facebook and go follow, you're going to love what you find. Right. And I'm just grateful that you're out there doing it. So here's my question to you. Now I know you're on a journey, and I know this will be an ever evolving answer. But what I love to track is literally, how these things change over time, because I think it's the most beautiful thing. I love watching human beings like grow and grow into the best version of themselves. So where you are right now, what do you see your legacy becoming?
It's an interesting question, because I think about it often. As a dad, as a husband, I made the choice a long time ago when I've been given opportunities or faced with opportunities to make choices of my own career paths. Some of them would have been, definitely more financially sound choices. But I have to tell you, Melissa, when I had those, or when I was confronted with those, I really had to ask myself, the question of legacy. What is it that I want to be? Life is short. If you think about the average life of a human being compared to the life of like the world as we know it, we are a blip on the timeline, on the spectrum, and, you spoke before about feelings. And I feel like we're at a very interesting place right now, because I see a lot of people and society who live their life by feelings. And I think that what separates us from, the animals is the fact that we have feelings and we have intelligence. Right. And like you said, you can choose to be happy. In misery, you can choose to be happy. It's an active decision. People say, oh, I fall in love. And if love is just an emotion, well, guess what? Emotions change. And they go up and down. And so, in my experience, love is not just a feeling, it's a choice. Mm-hmm. Because when I wake up every morning, that's not difficult for me because I love my wife, but it's still a choice.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel like we live in a world today where people are not recognizing that. It's just about how we all feel. And I think that could be a mistake in some way, Hey, you.
Say hi really quick?
Yeah, hi again.
All right. Are you going to go with Carson and go grab some more Play-Doh?
I want green Play-Doh, Mom.
Okay, it's out in the kitchen.
So cute.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that you're talking about this. I was just having this conversation earlier today. There's a great book out there that I read called Love 2.0. And even the science behind love suggests that love is a choice. Love is a choice every single day. In every moment, we can choose love. In fact, I will take this on another call. But I wrote down this quote that said, if you're not making love with strangers, you're probably not making money either. And what's behind that is this idea that we create love in all of the connections that we have in the world, right? Yeah. We create love in conversations. We create love in our partnerships. We create love with our children, our spouses, everyone. We choose to do that. And so we actually have the ability to choose to love those we struggle with. So we can choose to love, that family member that hurt us so badly when we were young. We can choose to love, that teacher that challenged us so much that they really wore us down. You can choose love in all situations. So,
and Melissa, I'm going to throw in there, you can also choose not to.
Yes.
And that's important too, because we're talking about choice. And I feel that the whole point of this iChoose thing is empowerment. Yeah. It's not I answers.
Yeah.
It's I choose.
Yeah.
And for some people, it can go either way.
Yeah.
And the choice that person needs to make, hopefully is made in love, even if it's to choose not to love, because we have the right to protect ourselves. We have the right to choose ourselves. And that's something that's very, very important. But again, that comes down to this intellectual decision that we need to struggle with or make over the feeling. And if anything, one thing I've learned about love, I think the definition of love is very simple. It's just one word. It's sacrifice. That's what love is. And going back to answering your question about legacy, I want my legacy to be, bringing as many people as I can to the light as possible, through my work. And, as long as I can take care of my family and do that, that's what I want to do. Yeah. That's what I believe I'm here to do.
Yeah.
And it's challenging for me too. That's a choice that I have to make, because like I said, you are faced with opportunities from time to time. And, there's times where I've had to turn certain things down because it wasn't part of that plan.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, thank you for choosing the work that you're doing. Thank you for choosing to be here right now.
Thank you. I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to connect. And, for everyone out there, Melissa was episode 7, right?
Yes.
On the iChoose. So if you go to the iChoose Facebook page, the @iChoose series Facebook page, you can see Melissa and I talking as well for about an hour.
Yeah.
About a variety of awesomeness.
Yes. And also from our local area, Seneca County investigator Chris Felice. So you can go check that episode out. That's episode 8, right?
Yeah, Chris was incredible.
Yeah. So, go to Facebook, find the iChoose page, like it, follow it, stay up to date. And I guarantee we're going to be back here within a year having this conversation with Michael, and it's going to be an entirely different place. So thanks for sharing the journey with us and being part of it. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Melissa.
Absolutely. Have a great night, Michael.
You too.
All right, there you go. There is my new friend and colleague, Michael Campo. So Aileen is still here in studio with us, and one of the things that we've been chatting about is the news that we choose. So when I think about the work that Michael is putting out into the world, whether it's his live series or it's his documentaries, I think about how conscious we all have to be if we want to protect and guard our own energy about the things that we take in. If we're simply, consuming whatever mass media is putting out there for us, then we're going to get whatever it is they want us to hear. If we're choosing the titles we want to read and the information we want to take in, then we can sort of craft our own experience. And it's not to say that we're being, that we're living an illusion, but it's really all about having the greatest energy that we can have to do the work that we're meant to do while we're here on this planet. And for me, what I was sharing with Aileen is the idea that I try to take in just enough of the current events going on out there in the world so that I'm informed and I'm connected to the humanity of it, but I'm not overwhelmed and shut down by the emotion of it. So I can continue to take action and move forward one step at a time. And part of why I decided to do this podcast was really that feeling of being overwhelmed by all of the negative news and information that was constantly in front of my eyes. And at the time, I didn't even have a TV at my house, but it was being out in the community and, going into a restaurant where there's 6 TVs on the wall or, something that a friend was sharing. It was just, we're bombarded by media every single day. And so I wanted the opportunity to bring forth some of the amazing work that I see out in the world and some of the incredible messages that I see being shared. And so it starts right here, one choice at a time about what it is you're going to listen to, what it is you're going to take in, and how you're going to guard and protect that energy so you can continue doing the amazing work that you were put on this planet to do. So I actually wanted to come back to Aileen and ask her, I love to wrap up with, first, out and about in the community. So one more time, the Women March in Seneca Falls this weekend. So the 19th, begin at 10 a.m. and it's starting with a beautiful lineup of speakers from 10 to 11:30. Then we will be marching and we'll wrap up with a mini musical festival from 1 to 3 p.m. over at Trinity Park. So please join us. I think that the message that we're putting out there in the world with this particular march is a strong one, and it's really that we can redefine resistance. It's not necessarily about being out there with our fists up. It's about taking the lead and doing the things that need to be done to bring this world to a better place. So that being said, now ideas and inspiration. So Aileen, I had asked right before Michael's interview if you would think about a quote or a lyric or a mentor, something to leave our viewers with for some inspiration this January.
Well, I have something that I had shared with my students year after year, and I constantly, it's something I go back to on a regular basis. It's about change. Okay. So change is giving up who you are to become who you could be. And so it's very difficult. And it's about challenging yourself and going the extra mile and doing the hard things. And it's very hard, but it's really worth it. And when you can be proud of yourself at the end of the day, that's what you get out of it. And too many times people get stuck in a rut, or they get comfortable in a career, or they get comfortable with their routine at home, and it's just about constantly widening your margins and trying new things and things that aren't easy.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I did. That's what I continue to do on a regular basis, and I feel that adds so much value to my life. And
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I constantly see all the time, and obviously know this through personal experience, but if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you.
Absolutely.
Right? So say it one more time.
So change means giving up who you are to become who you could be.
Beautiful.
So
I love it. All right, so I'm going to share one thing. So for those of you who saw the episode, I am a fan of Mark Hayford. He is an incredible DJ, speaker, coach, and he wrote his second book, 365 Days of Encouraging You to Attack Life.
Yes.
Shout out, Mark. And January 15th, this is a day by day. Stop trying to fit in with the crowd. You should be scared to death of being just like everyone else. So it completely fits the message that Aileen just shared. So if you're out there and, you're working on those New Year's resolutions or whatever it is that you've set out for in 2019, keep going. And, I'll challenge you to drop the resolutions, which for most people are temporary, and really begin to dig deep around what your values are and how can you begin to live those out. And if you want a guide, it comes in the form of less than $15 on Amazon.com. The Values Factor by Dr. John DeMartini is a beautiful guide to help you just discover your own internal GPS so that you can live out the remainder of this year and those beyond by the values that feel most aligned with you. So, having said that, thank you, Aileen, for coming to the studio.
Thank you for your positive energy and everything that you do that benefits our community. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
It's been a blast. I appreciate it. And we'll look forward to seeing you next month.